Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are joining from. I am Safir Aziz, 1995 production from TKM College of Engineering. Right now, joining you from Cochin. I'm excited to be moderating this event, talking about Dubai's Vision 2071 digital economy and metaverse future. I'm sure you are also equally excited. Who wouldn't be when we are talking about something 50 years from now? Where else will we get an opportunity to listen to or discuss these aspects? I can see that most of you are on mute now. We have enabled a setting that will put you on mute as soon as you enter. However, at the opportune time, you will be given the ability to unmute yourself and ask questions. If it is possible, if the bandwidth allows, I request all of you to turn on your video so that the speaker who has put in a lot of effort, he can actually talk to people rather than just the photographs or a profile picture. If you are from TKM College of Engineering, or if you are an alumni, please rename yourself so that we can see the year of passing as well as the branch of study. For your information, this session will be divided into two parts. We'll have a presentation by our esteemed speaker for around 20 minutes. And after that, we'll have an open question and answer session for around 30 minutes. You will have questions that will come up while our speaker is speaking, but I would request you to jot down those questions in the chat window so that we don't interrupt him. And once the question and answer session starts, I, as the moderator, will call you in one by one, and then you can have a conversation with the speaker regarding your questions. Meanwhile, please use the chat window to share your thoughts and to keep the session active. Having said this, let me now invite the president of TKMC UAE Alumni, Mr. Nujum Nawaz from the 1995 batch. Is a very close friend of mine, my batchmate, neighbor, and a famous wicketkeeper in the cricketing fraternity. Please put your hands together to welcome Mr. Nujum Nawaz. Nawaz, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Safir, for the wonderful introduction and the briefing. Am I audible? Okay.
Yes, you are.
Good morning and Assalamu alaikum to everyone. As Safir said, I'm also equally excited to listen to our speaker of the day. I know at least some of you would have done some researches on this topic, especially on the keyword metaverse. I accidentally happened to watch a seminar that was happening yesterday, and I got the insight of this particular word, metaverse. Meta, a Greek word which is beyond, and verse, beyond universe. So it's beyond universe that we are going to talk about. Correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Thomas, while you are doing your presentation. And hope all of you would be looking forward to this session from our speaker. Today, my responsibility is to welcome you all. And first of all, I would like to welcome our speaker of the day who has accepted our invitation and has been here to do this presentation for us. He's also an alumni and resides in Dubai as well. So today evening, he'll be in Dubai after his presentation. So welcome you, Mr. Thomas, from the 1988 batch or 99 batch. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is for our guest who has joined us from other colleges and other college fraternities. In one word, I would like to invite you all to this session. And please put in your questions to the speaker so that we can keep this session live. Last but not least, our own alumni members on this Sunday morning who has taken out time to listen to our speaker and to hear his presentation. Welcome you all, and thanks to all of you who has joined from outside the country, and welcome you all as well. Over to you, Safir. Thank you.
Thank you, Nujum, and I congratulate you and your committee members for taking the initiative in organizing such events. It is definitely useful for the engineering fraternity and our college alumni. Let me now invite the patron of our placement and mentoring cell of the KMC Alumni UAE to introduce our speaker. Unnikrishnan sir, the screen is yours.
Thank you, Safir. Hello, all. So today we have the third session of the Distinguished Speaker Series planned for the year. Here, I feel extremely proud to introduce the speaker, Thomas Kuruvilla, who is actually the member of our TKMC alumni fraternity. I also feel privileged to introduce Thomas, as he was my hostel mate during TKM days. Actually, എനിക്ക് തോമസിനായിട്ട് വളരെ വേറൊരു അടുപ്പം കൂടി ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നു. അത് ഞാനിപ്പോൾ തന്നെ സഫീറും ബിജുമായിട്ട് ഷെയർ ചെയ്യായിരുന്നു. ഈ ഹോസ്റ്റലിൽ എന്നെക്കാളും നീളം കുറവുണ്ടായിരുന്ന ഒരാളെ ഉണ്ടായിരുന്നില്ല, അത് തോമസ് കുരുവിളയായിരുന്നു. Right, anyway, let me get into the formal introduction. Okay, after graduating in electrical and electronics engineering from TKMCE in 1989, Kuruvilla joined L&T in India. In 1995, he left L&T and pursued MBA studies in finance and strategy at Melbourne University and Asian Institute of Management, Philippines. 1998, Kuruvilla joined Arthur D. Little, the world's oldest strategy and management consultancy, and was responsible for their operation in Singapore. Presently, Thomas is a managing partner of Arthur D. Little, Middle East, and a member of the board of directors and operating out of their Dubai office. Thomas has led many public sector transformational engagements on economic development, digital transformation across industries like transport, telecoms, healthcare, and real estate and smart city. Thomas has supported various family conglomerates in the Middle East in developing and executing their strategy. Many publications are there in his name that include India surmounting the economic challenges of COVID-19, COP-UP, a driver of corporate innovation in the Middle East. You may find many of them online at the website of Arthur D. Little. Thomas is also a part-time faculty at IMM Institute of Management, Ahmedabad, Bangalore, and Udaipur for programs covering international business strategy, family conglomerate strategy and governance, and strategy and management consulting. Thomas Kuruvilla was leading consulting assignment of Dubai Vision 2071. He will be enlightening us on the art of long-term, that is 20 to 50 years planning for economic and sectorial development, and the exciting experience of that assignment. Apart from that, I could see from his profile, he's also interested in doing natural farming. I would like to ask him in detail about that later. Over to you, Safir.
Thank you very much, Unnikrishnan sir. Before I invite the guest speaker, just 2 points to note. One, during the course of the event for the next 1 hour, we'll be taking some candid shots. So if any of you would like to see your beautiful faces in the photographs, please keep your video on. And second, Unnikrishnan sir just mentioned about the hostel days when he and our guest speaker were together. So if you want to listen to some interesting stories Please stay on until the end. During the networking session, we may have some chat regarding those interesting moments from the hostel days. With that, it's my pleasure to invite our esteemed guest speaker, Mr. Thomas Kuruvilla. Thomas Kuruvilla, sir, the screen is yours.
Thank you very much. I really feel very privileged to listen to all these detailed introduction, and I'm very happy to be spending this time with you. I would like, the topic is quite wide, and hence I would like to just trigger the discussions by presenting few slides, and I would like to have a discussion that is much better in my view. Just one input: the only advantage of a video conference is that nobody gets to know your height, and Unni has already spoiled it. So he already told you that I'm shorter than him. So the only advantage I had by coming on a video conference is already gone. So thank you to you, Unni. Good. So I have prepared some slides. Let me share those slides, and I will go through that very quickly. And then we can have some discussions after that. Yeah? Okay. Now, I hope you can see my screen. Maybe there is a surprise in the audience that why is it 2071? The reason is that Dubai, or all the Emirates, actually was formed in 1971. So there were some discussions about coming up with a very long-term strategy for UAE and the various Emirates. And they said, let us look at it from 100 years from the day the Emirates was formed. And that is why it is 2071, right? Otherwise, I just wanted to give you some thoughts about a very long-term planning. And I have participated extensively across multiple sectors in Dubai. I had the privilege to work with the Dubai Executive Council, which includes the ruler, the chairman of RTA, chairman of DIWA. I see somebody from DIWA on participating today. The chairman of DIWA, chairman of RTA, Etisadat head, MR head, Dubai ports. So all the infrastructure related businesses, the CEOs forms a committee, and I have worked with them extensively to help developing the overall long-term strategy. Yeah. And one quick input I wanted to give you is the year 2050, 2071 precisely is not the most important component. What I realized while doing a lot of consulting in UAE, I actually learned a lot, because initially I never thought it is useful to start working on strategies which is 15, 20 years ahead. And I realized that if you start working on 15, 20 years ahead, the outlook and the thinking that you will get is very different versus if you start projecting for the next 5 years, 7 years, and you start doing things versus thinking ahead for 15, 20 years, and then looking backwards saying that if 20 years, how will it look like, and hence what we should do. So the first input I'm telling you is that our projections from the current into the future versus trying to estimate how the world will look like in 30, 40 years, and then trying to conclude what may happen in 5 years, the outcome is extremely different. It is very different, right? And I will just show you a few examples from the study that we have done, and I'm very happy to get into a discussion. Yeah. I just wanted to convey some few quick messages here. I'm a little bit exaggerating just to convey the message, right? So one thing that is very important for us to know is that the whole economy and every sector is getting fundamentally disrupted. And we may be seeing some, if we feel that the current setup is already a significantly disrupted economy across multiple sectors, I don't think the disruption has really started. The disruption is yet to come, and what we will have in the next 5 to 10 years will be fundamentally different versus how we are operating in today, number one. Number two, with the advancement of connectivity, technology, artificial intelligence, and all of that, it is very clearly getting proven that wherever human intervention is there, it is actually creating a disturbance. It is actually creating a lot of inefficiencies in the system, right? And I can give you many examples. And wherever there is a human intervention and it is to conduct anything that is repetitive or predictive, in my personal opinion, in the 10-15 years time, that will get completely 95% gets eliminated unless there are some political games being played. If you allow the economy to move in the right direction, and if you allow the intervention of digitalization, human intervention for repetitive work will almost get eliminated in 10 to 15 years, right? And I'm very happy to take any sector that anybody are interested in. You can take healthcare, transportation, telecoms, real estate. And I can give you some fundamentals about any of these sectors and prove it to you that by eliminating human intervention, you can increase the value of the business by 30 to 40%. I'm not talking about 5 to 10%. We are talking about 30 to 40% value creation happens if you automate whatever repetitive work human beings are conducting, right? And as I said in the beginning, it is human intervention should be only for unpredictable activities in which thinking is required, and wherever there is thinking is not required, or if not if predictions are not possible, then you don't have to bring in human interventions, right? And for you to really develop your business, you need to really think a bit far away instead of projecting what is happening from now in the next 2 to 3 years, what is going to happen, and you start building a business based on that. You will very likely get it wrong, in my personal opinion, right? Another quick input is that we did very extensive study while we did this project for Dubai, that work from home, almost 50% of whatever shifted to work from home, 50% of that will continue for a very, very long time, right? And whatever digital buying started happening during COVID, 75% of them will remain. So whatever happened during COVID of working from home, 50% or more than that will continue. 75% of whatever online buying we started doing during COVID will continue. So we should not start assuming that the change in behaviors that happened during COVID will revert back. More than 50 to 60% of that will continue even if COVID doesn't come back, and that is because of the efficiencies that people realized from digitalization. Yeah. No, I'm trying to give you a very quick, short example about the whole study started with the mobility sector in Dubai. And then we did it for the electricity, which is DIWA. Then we did it for the healthcare. We did it for education. We did it for all of that. We did. But the point started by saying that it is a very interesting statement that was made many years back, saying that we need to have 25% of all trips in Dubai will be driverless. And it is already getting on track. And by 2030, you will already have more than 25% of the trips in Dubai will be autonomous without drivers. That is already going to happen. So if people think that it was too much, it was ambitious, it will not happen, that is not correct, right? And let me just tell you how these type of studies are done when we start predicting what will happen in 2050 and 2071. The philosophy that is followed is that, especially when we did that for multiple countries, we did that for Estonia, we did that for Germany, and we did it for Dubai. You cannot take data and extrapolate the future, right? The way it was done is for every single sector, right? We try to get in the best people in the world. For example, if you are going to talk about logistics, we go and find out who is heading the logistics research and development in Amazon, for example. And the request for them goes directly from the highest leadership in Dubai to bring them into a discussion. If it is healthcare, we find out that the best healthcare thinking is happening in Harvard Medical College. We bring the experts. If you want to understand what is happening in the automotive sector, we bring in people who are doing research for BMW, for Tesla, for Mercedes-Benz, right? So the way we try to understand what may be happening in the future in 10, 15, 20 years from now is not looking at current data, because that will always give you a very, very, very wrong impression about what will happen in the future. The way it is done is that you look at people who are doing a lot of research and development, fundamental research, think tanks who are working across multiple areas, and then bring the best people, and then we conduct multiple workshops and say that, what are you trying to innovate in logistics? What are you trying to do in driverless vehicles? What are you trying to do related to healthcare? And so what research and development are you doing? What are you trying to implement in 15 years from now, 20 years from now? What grants are you getting? And that is how we start forming an opinion on how things happen, right? And we always use think tanks for that. We use very sophisticated tools to develop scenarios, because we get inputs from very, very senior people, 20, 30 people, and they even contradict themselves. And these contradictory inputs are put into a tool and try to get an alignment to see what is at least what people are thinking about what will happen in 10, 15 years, right? And we bring in a lot of experts. What I will try to do is I will just show you a 1 minute. Yeah, let me come back to the presentation. And okay, before coming back to the presentation, let me just give you some quick inputs on this type of workshop, right? So the way it happens is that I don't know whether you saw it completely. So it is more about understanding the thinking from the best experts in the world. And there are workshops with companies like Amazon on logistics, companies like BMW, Mercedes-Benz on automotive sector, on Harvard Medical School, on medical hospitals and all of that. And then there are and we also invite young kids. You may think that it is, why is it? So we bring in kids 5 years old, 10 years old, 12 years old, from multiple geographies, multiple ethnic backgrounds, local people, international people, and ask them what do they think, what are the reading, what are they expecting, how do they want to see the world in 20 years now, 25 years now, 50 years from now. So we ask a kid who is 10 years old studying in the 5th grade, like, what do you think the world will look like in 30, 40 years? Or if you can design the world, how do you want the world to look like if you had the ability to design whatever you want? And these type of inputs are given a lot of importance. And when I talked about the Executive Council, I'm talking about the ruler, the RTA chairman, the DIVA chairman, MR chairman, these people sitting in workshops and listening to kids who are 10, 15 years and asking them one-to-one, saying, what do you want to see in Dubai in 10 years, 15 years from now? And they, all of them keep saying that I don't want to study, but they ignore all of that. But they there are many more interesting inputs that come during those discussions. Let me quickly share some outcome from that study, and then we can get into a very quick Q&A, right? Can you see my screen again, the PowerPoint slide?
Yes,
yes,
we can see, but it's not on presentation mode.
Yeah, it is now. I put it on presentation mode, right?
Yeah.
So, and I will show you some analysis. The way these type of studies are done is very, very simple. That there are more than, I don't know, for each and every sector, we look at 10 to 15 different trends, and we try to say how it will look like in 15, 20 years time. And then we come up with a consolidated view, and then we try to predict how the scenario looks like. And just to give some inputs, that it is very comprehensive. It is not just around technologies. It is around macro, socioeconomic, demographic, environmental thinking, cultural thinking, usage and behavioral trends. So all the softer aspects are given a lot more importance than the hard facts on what technology will do and how technology will evolve. It is more about human behavior and what do they want and what cultural aspects do we want to consider when we get into these type of things. And again, sharing just to give you a feeling of what happens on the mobility sector to start with. There is a very clear understanding from all the experts that by 2030, 95% or close to 100% of the vehicles will not be by drivers. It will be completely autonomous. It may be very difficult to believe, but when you look at what is really happening on research and what is happening, it is really, really going to happen that in 10 to 12 years time, none of the cars that we are driving manually will be driven manually unless we want to do it for entertainment, right? But for going to work, and if you have an option not to drive, you will have an option not to drive. And it is not only vehicles, we are talking about trams, buses, trucks, robots, shuttle, aerial taxis. I don't know whether you're already aware that there are autonomous trial basis in which the aerial taxis will pick you up from a particular location and take you to the airport for a price of 100 dirham. It is kept very cheap for now on a trial basis, but today, as of now, there is an app that is existing that you press a button, just like Uber coming to you, a driverless aeroplane type taxi can come and pick you up at a location and drop you to the airport, for example. There are thinking that the speed of everything will be closer to 400 to 500 kilometers per hour. It is not the current 60 to 70 kilometers per hour. And we are talking about just 10 to 12 years time. It will be autonomous, it will be driverless, and we will be having speeds of 400 to 500 kilometers per hour speed. That is going to what is going to happen in the transport sector, for example. Everything will be on renewable energy or electric or battery and things like that. So it is all of them will be working on alternate energy sources. And one last quick point is everything will be connected in another 10 to 12 years time. When I talk about connected, it's not, I don't know whether that is the connection that we are imagining. Each and every person, each and every building, each and every houses, the doors, the air conditioning, the fridge, the school that you're going in, the newspaper that you are reading, the computer that you are using, all of them, including the human beings, will be fully integrated and connected. You will not have anything that is not connected unless you decide that I don't want to get connected. But the technology will evolve in a very short time of 10 to 12 years time, but 100% of things in the world will be connected. It will be linked. It will be talking to each other versus what we think about just a mobile connecting to an app and starting and stopping a car and all of that. It will be, everything will be talking to each other in 10 to 12 years time, right? And just for you to understand some of the other inputs also is that everything will be a service. You will not own any assets. Similarly, today, maybe we own cars, but in the future, we will not own cars. Accommodation may be shared. Many things will be shared. So everything will be almost like a service. Like today, you're getting Google, you're getting a hard drive for Google, everything you pay only a subscription, right? You don't pay any fixed fee for any of these services like Amazon and all of that. But almost every service in the world will move into everything as a service where you don't have to own the asset. You're going to just to pay rent and use it, right? It will be completely shared economy. It will be individualized. And when I talk about individualization, it doesn't mean that all of us will own individual products. Just to give you an example of what people are talking about, it's like today, all the iPhone looks the same, but it is completely configured ourselves. We configure the iPhones. If you take the transport sector, it is expected that in 10 to 12 years time, you will have completely configurable autonomous vehicles, which can be configured to your requirement. And the cost of that vehicle may be, even if it is 10 times your current car cost. So let us say it's a fully configurable car. You say, Thomas has got into the car. Thomas is from Kerala. He likes to listen to Malayalam music. Malayalam music gets played. The music is different. The newspaper is different. The ambience in the taxi is different. The perfume is different. All of that is going to be configured for what Thomas likes. It will look like a very personalized vehicle. The cost of that vehicle may be 7, 8, 10 times the cost of the current vehicle. But the cost to Thomas as an individual will be much cheaper, because I don't know whether you know that today, 95% of the time the vehicles are parked. Only 5% of the time it is used. So when it becomes 95% used in the future, instead of 5% usage, even if the cost of the vehicle is 10 times more, the individual cost will still remain the same as we have it today to own, not to own, to share something that is 10 times more costlier, right? So when you're making it everything shared, the quality of everything will be significantly better, 3, 4, 5 times maybe the cost. But since the utilization is going to be 3, 4, 5, 10 times more, the cost to an individual will actually come down for having better services. And I don't think we should be surprised about it, because that is happening in mobile, in internet. If you look at how much we used to pay for internet, how much we used to pay for voice calls, it has come down by 100, right? So at that time, when somebody would have said that internet is going to cost you 1/100th of what you're paying, people would have felt surprised. But today, the prediction is for every cost that is going to incur, that we are going to incur because of the shared economy, shared assets, is going to drop drastically, exactly the way the cost dropped for hard disk space, telephone calls, mobile phones, internet, watching movie, and all of that. The cost is going to significantly come down, right? At the same time, when everything is going to be automated, there is a lot of importance is going to be given to green, healthy, local life, because if you continue remaining in front of the computer, you becomes very unhealthy, right? So there are going to be very, very serious implications and mandatory requirements to have a healthy, green environment going forward. And so when you automate things, there will be a regulation to ensure that you keep it very green and healthy, right? And again, I can share some details depending on the questions that you have, but there are very, very important outcomes saying that there will be extreme weather, very cold and very hot in Dubai in some time, but at the same time, you will be able to artificially control the 100% of the climate in Dubai. And when I listened to that, I felt it is shocking. But when you start talking to people who are doing research and development and implementing technologies, then you start realizing that it is actually going to happen. I repeat, 100% of the climate in Dubai can be artificially controlled, let us say in 10, 15 or 20 years. It is definitely going to happen, right? So when you have this pollution, when you have the environmental issues, when you think it is going to be very hot and cold and it's going to be a disaster, no, it will all be artificially controlled, for example, right? And all the inputs are put into a tool and we come up with multiple scenarios and we look at the various linkages between the various inputs. So the inputs are around demographics, works, travel, policy, regulation, and we prepare multiple scenarios, right? I will come into that if it is required. But just to give you some examples on the transportation side, going forward, you will not, all the roads will have charging on the road, for example, right? You will not need to charge your car. The car will be fully charged while it is running on the road. The road will be the conduit for charging, for example. You will not have any traffic light system displayed overhead, for example. In 10 to 12 years time, it is all going to be in your car. It is all going to be dynamically routed, right? Because you don't need to have a steady, fixed, painted traffic light system ahead on top of you, because if everything is electronically connected and it is centrally controlled by artificial intelligence, the system is going to guide the car to go in any direction, and you are not going to drive it. You are not going to read any signage, and all the signages that you have in Dubai may get completely redundant in another 10 years time, right? And this could not have been predicted if you look forward, versus you take a 2050 scenario or you take a 2071 scenario and you say, if this is going to happen in 2050, then let us think about what will happen in 2030. And then you start realizing that many things that is happening on the road transportation is completely irrelevant, and we are doing the wrong investments as of now, right? And then we created multiples. And just to give you an example of a decision that was taken after we created multiple scenarios, I'm happy to get into the different scenarios if you're interested, but for the sake of time, I would like to go into Q&A very quickly. For example, we decided that you are going to make private car ownership extremely costly. And it is not yet released now. It is not announced yet, because today owning a car is extremely cheap. But if you have to really move into shared public mobility in which people start using autonomous cars, which are going to be 10 times costly, it is completely automated. We need to update the regulation to make owning cars extremely costly. For example, in Singapore, the tax is more than the cost of the car. The fuel is very costly in Singapore, right? So you may have regulation, it has been already decided that private ownership of cars will be prohibited in Dubai. It will be made extremely costly, so that we move into public transport right now. Just to give you some thoughts on what may happen, maybe I don't mind taking one or two questions at this time before we get into the further few more slides. Can anybody predict what will be the cost of transportation after implementing autonomous transport, for example? Today, if you are spending 1 dirham for a unit of movement, what do you think will be the cost in the future? Anybody wants to attempt to give a thought on that? You can unmute and give an answer if you want. Yeah.
It may be 20 to 30%.
And why do you say it will be 20 to 30% of today's cost?
Because we are not going to own the assets, and
Okay.
the effectiveness of the mobility device will increase multifold, is it not? So it can
Correct.
be
So
economy of
instead
scale will work.
Correct. So instead of 100, it becomes 20, right?
Yes.
Right. So any other thoughts on that?
We
Okay.
have, Thomas, we have a comment on the chat box which says it will be 100 times more. You're on mute.
You're on mute, Thomas.
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Okay, so it is okay. So it will be 100 times more. What do you think will be the cost of road infrastructure to carry the same transport that you are carrying today? Today, you are carrying a passenger on the road. And let us say it costs 10 dirham to carry a passenger on the road for 1 kilometer. It's costing you 10 dirham. What do you think will be the cost 10 to 15 years from now instead of 10 dirham? Is it going to be 100 or is it going to be 1 instead of 10?
It'll be,
Any-
it'll be around, it'll be some cryptocurrency, because I don't think we'll again be in dirhams 10 to 15 years if you're going to centralize everything.
Right.
And
But equally.
I think, but in terms of dirham, I think it'll be somewhere around 1 to 2 dirhams, the way things are moving.
Right. Okay. So let me give you the conclusion from the study, right? So what do you think is the utilization of a vehicle? Then you moved from the regular taxis to Uber and Careem. It actually from 50% utilization, it has already gone to 85 to 90% utilization, right? So if you start taking something which was 100 by taxis, by completely just using a simple app like Uber and Careem, from 100, it has already become, let us say, conservatively 60, not even 50, right? Now, if we talk about this car being, because of sophisticated artificial intelligence, without any compromise, you are able to accommodate multiple customers, and instead of, I will not say 5 per car or 4 per car, let us put 3 per car. So instead of 60 is going to be used by 3 people. From 60 it has already become 20. From some 60 it has become 20. Now let me take you further. Now when the car becomes autonomous, today there is a space, 3 car space between 2 cars, correct? When you're driving on the road today, there are 3 car spaces in between because it's manually controlled. Right now, if you have it autonomous, the cars can be actually adjacent to each other. That means in the same road infrastructure, instead of 1 car, you can put 4 cars, right? Because it is vehicle controlled. It is, the vehicles are talking to each other, right? So you don't need to keep 3 cars in between. The space is occupied. So instead of the road carrying 1 car, the road will carry 4 cars. So from 20, it has become 5. Okay, we started from 100, just imagine. Now, the speed of the car today on the road is average, let us say 100. It may be 60, 70, but let us put it at 100. In 10 to 12 years time, from 100, it will at least go to 250 kilometers per hour. Autonomous dedicated line is, human beings are not fooling around the road and coming in. Everything is autonomous. The speed will be at least 250 from 100. So from 5, it has already become 2.5. See, and I did not want to spend a lot of time. From 100, just by simple logically explained, I have explained it to you that it becomes 2.5 instead of 100. Just on transportation. This is an extreme case, but I can prove it to you in almost any sector. You will need only 50% of the infrastructure that is required today. 50%, not 70%, 80%. It is 50% of what you need today. When you digitalize, you remove people like us, the human beings who are messing around and inefficient and not doing anything properly. You take us out, you automate anything, 50% efficiency gain, 100% guarantee, right? Again, and I will give you a few more examples and then we'll get into a Q&A. For example, so I already proved it to you with data that from 100, it has gone to 2.5. I don't think anybody would have predicted that unless you go through this proper thinking of what is going to happen in 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, right? You would not have done that, right? And let me tell you the type of decision that has been taken in Dubai. Yeah, it's public information. I'm not sharing anything confidential. If we agree that shared vehicles are going to be there, you don't need the current car parking. So car park constructions will be stopped in 2030 because you don't need so much of car parking, because the cars are going to be used continuously. It is going to be used 80% of the time instead of 95% being parked somewhere. So all the car parking infrastructure that you're building becomes useless if you believe in what I'm saying. The basic traffic signage system that is being implemented becomes useless in another 10 years time, because everything is going to be autonomous, directly telling the car where to go, and you're not going to, a human being is not going to read the signs and go and drive it. So there is a significant discussion to stop investing in signages. You will stop having extensive call centers because people call other people when they have a problem. That is not, it's not required. It is going to be call centers and autonomous. So you don't need call centers. The road infrastructure investments will stop in another 5 to 6 years time, because the same road infrastructure can carry 5, 6, 7 times the population. And the population is not going to grow by 5, 6 times. In 10 years, it may grow, I don't know, 20%, 30%. Or if you want to bring in a lot of tourists and Dubai becomes much better, maybe the population will double. The capacity today can take 3, 4 times with this autonomous description that I have given. See? So I'm just giving you one example. When you start thinking a bit further away, there are very fundamental changes that is almost 100% that is going to happen. And then you will realize that many of the things that you're doing today, which you are 100% confident that is relevant, it is completely useless and it's a complete waste of resources and investments. And we can go through many sectors on that, right? Just to give you one more input on hospitals, we actually did a study during COVID. 30% of the hospital requirements, hospital visits were not even required. And in another 7, 8 years time, 70% of the hospital visits are not required. 70%. 35% of the treatment that we used to go to the hospital, today it is already remote. We don't go to the hospital in Dubai, right? We arrange a video conference. I'm already doing that with MediClinic. I don't go there. I just fix an appointment. I enter all the data. The hospital is not entering any data. You don't make any mistake because I'm manually entering it. I have a video conference with the doctor. If I have to take a blood test, then I have to take a blood test and I don't have to go to him. Share the blood test with him. He prescribes the medicine. Medicine comes through Uber or Kareem to my house from the pharmacy. I'm sitting at home talking to the doctor and getting it done. And instead of 35%, it is expected to go to 75% remote treatment versus what is happening today. 50% of the bed space that is occupied today is a waste of space. You don't need to be in the bed at all. So the current hospital can process double or triple the number of healthcare issues, not patients, because if you say patient, it means you're going to be in the hospital. That is not required, right? So the healthcare cost will come down significantly, maybe by 35 to 40%, or we will get a better healthcare for the same amount, right? So when I talk about cost coming down, it is more related to the same facilities and treatment being given. Same thing on real estate. Energy savings can go up to 35 to 40%. Parking space can be completely reduced. Just to give you an example on the real estate side, today, by dynamically routing the cars in the parking space, you can save 30%. It is already happening in multiple buildings in Dubai already, right? And let me give you one example of what is happening in a building which we may not be aware of. That people who are coming regularly to their house, they are given parking spots near the lift. You don't own a lift. Everything is shared. If you remember, I talked about shared economy, shared infrastructure. And people like me who are coming to Dubai once in a week, they will never give me a slot near the lift because I have to walk. Let me walk for 5 minutes because you're walking only once in a month. So why will I block a slot near the lift? So I will be given a slot which is a bit far away, but I still walk only once in a month. So I will be given a very far away slot. And people who are coming every day to their building will be given a slot very near to the lift. And we are saving their time, and a lot of efficiencies are happening. And the moment you come into the building, the door is open, the curtain is open, the air conditioner is open, the AC is regulated. All of that is already implemented in Dubai for now in MR buildings and Aldar buildings, right? There are telcos in which there is zero human intervention. Zero human intervention. It's a company called Simyo, and the customer experience is 10 times better. And the price is 38% lower than the current cost. It is already existing that there are telcos that you cannot talk to anybody, because if you talk to somebody, it means that it's inefficient. It is completely automated, right? Restaurants and kitchens are already today producing 3 to 4 times the food that they used to produce in the past because of ordering from home. Education, 50% of the education will shift to remote education in another 7 to 8 years of time. As I already told you, the vehicle cost is going to be 10 times, but the total cost is going to come down, right? So, and I will just talk a little bit about Metaverse also. Now, what we talked about is just digitalization. Metaverse is a completely different game in which I sincerely believe that in 10 years time, everything that you see today will have a digital replica. I repeat, everything that you see today will have a digital replica in the cloud in 7 to 8 years from now. Everything will be replicated. It will be extremely cheap, and you will be able to conduct business seamlessly between the virtual world and the real world. You will be buying stuff, somebody will be taking a measurement, you'll be placing an order for a shirt, everything on the virtual world. A tailor will come and take your measurement, and then it's on the virtual world. You're not going to see them. Nothing is physical. And everything gets manufactured, it gets couriered, and then it comes to your house. But you will have 100% of the feeling of going to a tailor and doing it. Right. So this is what we meant by metaverse. Everything will have a duplication of physical and augmented reality. Just on real estate, today, there is already a regulation that in the future, whenever real estate that you want to buy anything on the real estate, they have to show you an exact replica, including the view from a 73rd floor or a 50th floor on the metaverse. And you will sign a contract for you to buy a house on Burj Khalifa facing something on an augmented reality. The contract is signed there in the metaverse. And then when you get the real apartment, it has to match with the apartment that is shown on the digital metaverse. And if it is not similar to what they have shown on the cloud, you can sue them legally, saying that on the metaverse, you showed me an apartment. This is how it looked like in the augmented reality, and the real apartment is not like that. I'm not buying this house, and you can take them to court, right? That is what is getting implemented in Dubai right now. It is nothing new, right? Metaverse is expected to bring in around 4 billion. There is already a regulator to regulate virtual assets on the cloud in Dubai already implemented. You cannot just go to the cloud and buy something. There's a regulator implemented for that, right? And the Dubai city is getting duplicated in another 5 to 6 years time. The whole Dubai, not the current Dubai, whatever they're planning in 2030 will be in the cloud by 2025. So you can physically see what is happening 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ahead of time. How is it going to look like? You can give inputs, you can do whatever you want, and before it becomes reality, right? Today, I'm finishing in another 10 and one or 2 minutes so that we can at least have some Q&A. I'm sorry, I did overrun. Today, there are already cases in which the whole airport is duplicated on the cloud. And when they want to do any maintenance, they do it on the cloud, and the robots will conduct it on the physical assets. Human beings are working directly on the metaverse, for example, right? BMW and all of that, they have started creating metaverse factories. Cars are being manufactured in the metaverse. Maintenance is being done in the metaverse, and then the robots will conduct whatever you're doing in the metaverse in the real world, right? And there are already some companies that are there in the metaverse, and these are some names that I just showed it on the screen, right? Let me stop here and let us get into a quick discussion. Maybe some of you don't agree with it, or you may be worried about the implications of human jobs, what is happening, and I'm very happy to get into a discussion. Yeah.
Thank you, Thomas sir. Before we get on to the question and answer session, let me request all of you to come on video so that we can take a good picture while the questions and answers are being question and answer session is being conducted. I have 2 questions on the chat window. We'll start with that. The first one came from Riston Thomas. Riston, please unmute yourself and you can go ahead and ask the question.
Yeah, hi, good morning, Thomas. So thank you for the wonderful session. What I would like to ask is, in 1998, when the internet boom started, there was a lot of push towards internet as well as towards companies related to that. Now that we can see a push in digitalization, what do you see? When is the curve for digitalization going to flatten? And when do you see maybe SaaS companies related to digitalization actually going over the valley of it?
See, you can actually call Metaverse or Web 0 an extension of the digitalization, right? But I would not like to look at it like an extension of digitalization. It is you're actually discontinuing a digitalization philosophy, and it is an extension of the physical world, right? So the way I would like us to look at it, it is not an extension of digitalization. It is not just Facebook getting into the metaverse. It is the physical life getting duplicated in the cloud. And that is already happening. Already happening. There are many companies who, I can give you examples. There are telcos, there are garments, there are food factories, there are many companies which is 100% already on the cloud, 100% already on the cloud. So for me, the flattening is, I don't know what you mean. The flattening is the digitalization is not what is happening now. I think it is going to come much faster than what we think. The complete metaverse philosophy, right? Look at, again, when cryptocurrency came, whether token came, we all thought it is a joke. It is not a joke. Digital currency, cryptocurrency, validated tokens is the way we are all going to transact maximum in 3 to 5 years time. 100%. The paper currency is going to be wiped out in 3 to 4 years time. I don't think people estimated that in the past, right? If you look at our own predictions on internet, Amazon, digital buying, mobile phone, all our predictions were very late, right? It happened much faster, right? So so my thinking is it is going to be quite quick, the complete metaverse philosophy. Yeah, very quick in few years time.
Thank you, Thomas. We have Abdul Salim from 1998 Civil who has raised his hands. Salim, go ahead.
Hi. Thanks, Mr. Thomas, for a wonderful session. It was really awesome, I would say. And I'm excited to see the future. Okay. See, my question is with respect to, you just touched upon the cryptocurrency and the in a plan to discontinue paper currency.
Correct.
A person, I'm a person who actually always promote on the digital currency and cryptocurrency. But when we speak to people, it's very hard to make others believe that this is going to happen. So if you can just put some light on the plan of Dubai to implement. We have already seen the regulatory coming in to give crypto exchange licenses and stuff like that. But if you can just enlighten us to give the view of Dubai in digital currency and cryptocurrency, and whether Dubai is going to come up with digitalizing the currency the way China came up with. So if you can just, I have one more question which I'll shoot after this.
Correct. Yeah. Should I try to give answers very quickly because we are overrunning on time, or you would like
please.
to stay?
Yes. Yeah. There are quite a few questions that has come up, so we can do it faster.
Before answering this question, because I was in Singapore many years back, right? And when they wanted to have credit card transactions in Singapore, this is in 2001. I repeat, 2001, overnight, government said that 100% of the government transactions will be with credit card. In and they told them that in 1 month from now, all of you should use only credit card. If you come to the government with money, you cannot the transaction will not be done. In 1 month's time, 100% of currency got eliminated in Singapore government transactions in 2003 in 1 month's time. Dubai is definitely going to implement saying that currencies are not going to be allowed in Dubai. And then whether you believe it or not, it is irrelevant. It is irrelevant. You don't have an option in your life. You say, it's not, Thomas, your currency is useless. You just burn it. And I don't believe in it. So what? You will not eat food or what? So it is going to happen. It is going to be made mandatory because the savings on transaction, let me tell you the approximate savings from moving from paper currency to digital currency. The cost of transactions actually comes down by 8 to 9%. Can you imagine what is the economic savings when you save 8 to 9% just moving everything digital, right? In India, when it was implemented, we thought the farmers will not have Google Pay. We thought so. All this the small roadside shops will not have Google Pay. Then when they started realizing they will lose business, they all have the sticker in front of their shops now. Everybody in Kerala, 99% of them, you can do Google Pay. Yeah. So the answer is, it is 100% going to be implemented. The timing may be 1 or 2 or 3 years. Digital currency will be made mandatory and paper currency will be 100% eliminated. And it will come in by a regulation.
Okay, sir, we have a couple of questions related to human behavior and the human mindset. So when we talk about digitization, a lot of things are happening in the digital world. How are governments looking at changing the human mindset, behavior, and also related to how will the blue collar workers, for example, be taken care of in a new and digital world?
See, I will be a bit, I know it is getting recorded, but let me be very blunt and transparent here. See, the requirement of maintaining blue collar work and low end work is a political game being played by politicians and corrupt politicians. Let me be very blunt on that, right? If something can be replaced, why is that agriculture is not producing the outcome in India? Why it is not? Because we don't want to mechanize them. If we mechanize agriculture in India, the same farmer can produce 100 times the output, correct? And then we will say, oh, so instead of 100 farmers, only one farmer produces and the 99 farmers don't have any job. That's not correct. You can implement schemes to give them a job and they will get educated and they will question the government and the bullshit they're doing. That's exactly what is happening. I'm very sorry for that, right? So let us take the case of taxi today. Now, for 100 taxis today, we need 200 taxi drivers, because assuming somebody works for 2 shifts. Now, if the same 100 taxis are made automated and you can run it with 3-4 people, right? So instead of 200 drivers running 100 taxis, it becomes an automated driverless taxi. Instead of 200 people, 5 people are sitting in a control center and managing all of that. The output that a person produces becomes 5-10 times. It contributes to the per capita GDP of the country. The person, the blue collar worker who is getting $10 today, since he produces 10 times the GDP, you have to give him, instead of $10, you have to give him $20, $25. And the people who are getting displaced out of job, they will be given another job. Now, let me tell you another input that I did in Saudi Arabia. You will not believe this. So I was trying to do a project in Saudi Arabia in which, I will tell you, it is in the news. Saudi Telecom, there were 7,000 people who were to be eliminated from the telco operation, 7,000 people. And I will not disclose the people that I discussed with. They said, Thomas, this is a very, the problem is they are going to be out of job, right? What do we do? So I asked the person who was discussing with me, see, the problem is not about whether they are out of job. The problem is that they don't have an income. Listen to me very carefully. The issue is not whether somebody is happy to sit at home. People are happy to sit at home. The problem is he doesn't have an income. So it is not about 7,000 people losing their job. It is 7,000 people losing an income. Now, I can prove it to you that by keeping the 7,000 people sitting at home and not doing anything, doing nothing, instead of coming and tinkering on the telecom network, the cost is much higher if they tinker on the telecom network. So you ask them to sit at home, do nothing, and you pay them salary. The economic development is significantly higher. So I'm repeating, even if blue collar workers are losing their job, you should just give them the income. You cannot be unfair to them. That is not correct. People like you and me who are very sophisticated people, we come up with all this automation, and the people who are blue collared work, they get kicked out of the work and they don't have any job. That's not fair. But we should compensate them, or we should retrain them. And the economic benefit that you will get by automating will be 10 times more than what is required to pay for the income loss. You see where I'm coming from? And the whole story about people are losing a job and all of that, it is all manipulated data, so that to say that I'm in love with you, you like the ruler, you vote me, and that's what's really happening. I'm telling you, everything else is not correct.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for that interesting answer. So we have crossed the time that we had allocated for the entire session. So what we will do, I know that there is an interesting conversation happening here So what we will do, we will take 3 more questions from people who had volunteered, and we will conclude the session, but others are more than welcome to stay back as long as our speaker, Mr. Thomas Kuruvilla, is available for having a conversation later on. I hope it's fine with you. Let me now invite Sabit Sabarinath. He wanted to ask a question. Sabit, go ahead.
Hi, Mr. Thomas. It was wonderful hearing all this. Running a system integration company, I faced firsthand the biggest issue of digitization creating human redundancies or replacing human redundancies, and handling that has been one of the bigger issues. But you touched upon that, so I'll move on to the second question I had. Now, you said that the healthcare, 70% of it is going to be remote, right? Are we also considering that, since we're projecting to the future, all this digitization which is happening is increasing sedentary nature, from a health standpoint, is increasing the sedentary nature of people. I remember, when I play with my son and I climb the trees with him, there are other kids who come down and say, "Can you teach me to climb a tree?" That's the world we are living in today. You need to have tuition centers to climb trees. People are getting certificates on swimming from internet, and they believe that they can swim. Yeah. So in this kind of situation now, COVID was a very good example. We live in a world where healthcare has moved a lot from when the Spanish flu happened, but the whole world locked itself down. Are we really assuming that this 70% remote healthcare crisis takes into consideration all the new diseases and all the other issues that will come in place?
Okay, so again, I know I'm really running out of time. Let me try to keep it very short, and then after the official time, we can get into more.
Apologies for a long question.
So I will give you an example of what we did in Arthur D. Little. Okay, in Arthur D. Little, our income doubled because for our consulting firm, travel cost was extremely high, and when we stopped traveling, we had our profit just doubled. But then what we did is we gave everybody in Arthur D. Little an iPhone, an Apple Watch for free. Okay, and it was made mandatory that everybody has to exercise at home. Everybody was given a web camera for free. It was purchased from Amazon. We purchased Apple Watch for everybody. We have 180 consultants. 180 consultants got couriered a web camera and an Apple Watch, and we had to do yoga in front of everybody. The Apple Watch has to be tied. We are measuring what is the exercise you are doing. And now let me make a statement to you by which all of you will laugh. The bonus people got in the year 2021 had 15% of the bonus linked to the activity captured on the Apple Watch. Okay, so now when I talk about Dubai, in the scenario of complete autonomous, there is a very significant initiative to keep people healthy. You will be mandated to remain healthy. It's not even your choice, because if you're not healthy, we will not give you medical insurance. You see, so the philosophy, we are already implementing that in Saudi Arabia, right? In Saudi Arabia, people are obese, right? And the government is telling them that I'm going to give you 5 years to really handle these things. And if you don't get healthy, we will not give you health insurance. So the way it is going to be handled, unfortunately, the way we talked about currency being made mandatory, you will be mandated to take care of yourself, because the government cannot have the money to take care of your unhealthy lifestyle, right? So it will come through regulation. Every society will have green environment. They will measure the oxygen level. They will measure all of that. So MR cannot just build some 25 buildings with 1 million people and people are giving carbon dioxide. MR will have to pay penalty for that, right? So that also will be regulated. So the atmosphere quality, the safety, the health, all of that will be regulated 100%. So you can you will be mandated to just cycle around your house. You keep cycling. If you don't cycle, I'm not going to give you health insurance. Go and sit at home. You see? Yeah.
Thank you, sir. Let me now invite Jiju Jalal. JJ, please go ahead. Your chance to ask the question.
Oh, Jiju Jalal, so happy to see you. We used to play badminton every day. Oh,
Still I play. Still I play.
Yeah.
How are you, Kuruvilla?
I'm very good, very good. Yeah.
You look still young, huh?
Okay, good to know.
No, great session, man. Great session. It's really happy to sit on a Sunday and listen to a lot of advanced and future scenarios. Thanks for the TKM alumni session. One quick question, like you said about the cryptocurrencies and the future, all these things. Let's say we wish to buy a property in downtown area through the metaverse. How is it possible? What will be the ways and how you can do that?
Okay, so
Can you explain that?
I can explain that to you. It is already there today, right? What is going to happen now? 100% of Dubai is going to get replicated on the metaverse in the cloud going forward, right? The transactions will become digital. The tokens that you will have a legal validity. So you will use cryptocurrency. Okay, so, and you will have, there'll be two real estates, for example. You will have in the metaverse a real estate that is duplicating, that is physically present in Dubai. And you will have a virtual real estate in the metaverse, which is, there's no physical replication of that, right? And I don't know whether somebody is getting confused when you say that, Thomas, there's no physical house, that it is there in the metaverse. It is, yeah, there's a metaverse. You will sit there. You will invite your girlfriend to come to the metaverse house, which is not a physical house. She will come there. The way you're talking on WhatsApp, you will sit face to face with her. You will order a food for her. She will get it, and you want to give her a necklace, for example. Digital necklace, you will have to pay. Don't laugh at this. You will pay a $10,000 digitally paid necklace will be put on her digital avatar. It is not a real necklace, but you still have to pay $10,000. Then she will, only if somebody paid $10,000 for the digitally validated diamond necklace, she can wear it in her avatar when she goes and meets another boyfriend. If it is not that, she is not allowed to wear that digital necklace. Today you can fake it. In the regulated metaverse, when you have paid money using digital currency, and in that regulated metaverse, you cannot wear a shirt, you cannot wear a watch, you cannot wear a necklace for which you have not paid. So owning a BMW in the real world and the prestige you have for owning a BMW in the real world, the same thing will happen in the digital world. I'm 100% sure of that. So to answer your question, digital currencies are going to be there. In the metaverse, you may create a duplication of an MR building that is going to really come. You do the transaction, you pay the money in the digital cryptocurrency, and then you get the real estate somewhere in Dubai, real one. Similarly, MR may create a metaverse version of some fun-looking apartment, nothing physical, virtual, and you can invite your wife and kids. They also come in virtually, have fun virtually, have food virtually. You can give them a present virtually. The son suddenly has an iPhone, which is a virtual iPhone, and he shows it to his metaverse friends in his metaverse world, and it continues. It is going to happen.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We have one last question before we formally conclude, and we'll leave the meeting open as long as you want to. The question, George, sir, from Deva, can you please unmute yourself and ask your question, please?
A very great presentation, Thomas. In fact, your presentation has given a lot of strategic insight to us. So in that way, this has got a strategic indent. I'm just wondering about this digital currency, which you mentioned.
Right.
I'm still a bit confused whether cryptocurrency will rule the world or the digital currency sponsored by the government will be the ultimate. Because ultimately there should be a fiat currency, is it not, for each government to have? So why in future a cryptocurrency will be encouraged?
Yes, see, the logic is, okay, let us get a bit more into the technical thing. See, as long as it is tokenized and a Bitcoin is mined against it, there's no issue, right? So as long as something is there's a digital token which cannot be duplicated, and a regulatory authority can validate that this token is validated by the monetary authority of Dubai, then it works. See, and let me just give you one more input. If you really stretch your imagination a bit more, the paper currency is equivalent to digital currency. The paper has no value. It is a legal regulation that is giving you a value of 100 dirham. And whether 100 dirham is 3.75 US dollars or whatever, that is managed by the economy. Same thing will happen with digital currency. The moment the government backs it up with a digital token and with a mining, and there is a blockchain connecting the transactions, it will become as good as a regular currency. It has to. But the value will keep fluctuating. The way the exchange rate between Indian rupee and US dollar keeps fluctuating, the exchange rate between a cryptocurrency released by Dubai government and the cryptocurrency released by US will all be very different, right? The trick is that in the past, the world allowed US dollar to dominate. Now, China is trying to avoid that. India should try to avoid that because we have the mass population, right? So everybody will try to fight to have their cryptocurrency or the currency that is backed up by their legal system to be very powerful the way US dollar is very powerful today, right? But it will 100% get legalized as long as it is backed up by the regulation. And again, I know I'm repeating a statement that I'm saying. Technically, there is no difference between a paper currency and a digital currency. It's a printed piece of paper. You put that piece of paper on the internet, it becomes the digital currency. The paper doesn't have any value. It is a regulation that validated the value on the paper. If the same regulation that validates the value of the paper, they could have validated the value on the digital currency, and it becomes equally good.
Thank you, Thomas.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Thomas, and all the people who have asked questions. I hate to be the person who says that, okay, the question and answer session is formally coming to a close because it's been an interesting session. I'm excited to see 70 plus people in the room even now after maybe 1 hour and 15 minutes. That shows the interest. So let me do a quick summary, and then I'll invite our General Secretary to do a vote of thanks. So people who had planned their time earlier and who wants to leave may leave, but who wants to stay back and ask questions to or interact with Mr. Thomas, you may please do so. So in my opinion, I take back 5 points. Yeah.
No, I just wanted to give an input that I can stay another 25 minutes. Yeah. Go ahead. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So for me, there are 5 points or 5 takeaways in this. Number 1 is about the pace of change that is happening. I remember reading a joke sometime back. It said 100 years back, everyone had horses and only the rich people had cars. And today, everyone has cars and only the rich people has horses. So, you know, the way things are changing is massive. We spoke about driverless cars by 2030. We are talking about controlling the climate 100%. We are talking about charging on the road, dynamic routing of signages to your car, road investments stopping in a few years from now. All the people in the construction industry, please note, we are talking about remote medical care, a connected world where we have services. Wow, where are we leading to? The second important aspect that came across to me is about using current data to plan for the future. And I think it's a valid point to say that, okay, current data probably will leave us, will not lead us anywhere. The third aspect which you mentioned, and that's one important thing that I take from this meeting, understand future trends, anticipate long-term scenarios, and recommend a forward-looking roadmap. I think this is not just important for countries, it is important for companies, and it is important for individuals as well. Some of the questions that came up are related to what will happen to the job market 10 years from now, what will happen to the construction industry. What I take back from this meeting is to think forward. Where will our expertise required in the future and plan accordingly? And the key point is about changing our mindset. It's changing our mindset. It's how we think, change the way we think. And I'm eagerly waiting to see my digital twin in the metaverse. And I will send you the details. Please send me any number of diamonds or dollars or any BMW cars, anything that you want. I'll share that in the near future. Looking forward to more sessions like this from TKMC alumni and from Mr. Thomas. I'll now invite our General Secretary, Adarsh, to do the vote of thanks formally.
Thank you, Safir, and good morning, everyone. It's my turn now to present the thank you note. At first, I would like to thank the speaker, Mr. Thomas Kuruvilla, sir, for this interesting presentation. It was truly informative and enlightened us about the strategic work that's underway to transform Dubai for the future. Thank you, sir, for your valuable time and effort in presenting this wonderful session. I appreciate the moderator, Mr. Safir Ashish, for the seamless conduct of the session. Also, I would like to thank our patron, Mr. Unikrishnan AC, who have identified the speaker and for his guidance in conducting this session. Then we had close to 80 people in attendance for this session. That's a testimony to the interest generated by the topic. In fact, that's a driving force for us to conduct more such sessions. Thank you all for your valuable presence and for the interaction with the speaker. Last but not the least, I would like to thank my fellow office bearers for their support in conducting this session. Thanks everyone once again, and have a great Sunday.
Okay, so we formally close. So if anyone wants to leave, you may, but we still have 20 minutes of Mr. Thomas's time. So anyone having questions, please shoot. If you have more people talking, then probably I'll have to moderate. Otherwise, we'll leave it open for anyone to ask the questions. Celine, go ahead.
Better you moderate, otherwise it will be chaos.
Okay, no problem. Okay, let's go. Celine first.
Hi, Mr. Thomas. I think there is, as per me, there's a difference between digital currency and cryptocurrency. So there was a question about digital currency and cryptocurrency, whether digital currency will lead the world or cryptocurrency will lead the world. And according to my understanding, because I work very closely in the space, so according to my understanding, probably the regulation will have to take a back seat, because the decentralization is taking in charge, and the blockchain technology is taking the front foot, and the leading space. What is your view on this, Mr. Thomas?
See, again, I was trying to restrict the answer because we had so many questions. So there are too many questions. I did mention that regulation comes in, right? When we talked about people maintaining the healthy lifestyle, when everything is autonomous, and government will mandate people to do exercises, and you will measure that over your Apple Watch, and the government is regulating it. I'm taking on that point first so that I come back to this question to give you the full picture of what I'm talking about. See, the government will intervene, or the regulator will intervene only till the digitalized, connected world cannot handle it on its own. So why is that? It was a very good question that somebody asked, saying that, Thomas, when everything is automated and we start sitting at home and we become unhealthy and the health cost goes up, and the Dubai government will 100% mandate that I need to understand that you are taking exercises. You have to measure it on a device so that we will guarantee you healthcare insurance. But as it moves forward, the government will step back and say, guys, the health insurer and the person will directly interact. The health insurer will directly connect to your watch and understand whether you're maintaining a lifestyle. And the government regulation is not required, because my watch data will be connected to all the health insurance providers. They will understand what is my health condition, and they will compete between themselves, saying that, Thomas, I measured your activity in the last 1 year. I know what is your sugar, your cholesterol, your BP. I'm willing to give you an insurance for $100. Another person will say, I will do it for $90. And that competition will happen. And you don't need the regulation for that. Same thing will happen on the currency also, in my view, right? So the currency regulation, that what I talked about, is only going to be temporarily till the system can drive it on its own. And I also believe that digital currency will have a much more prominent role than cryptocurrency, but I will not want to say that in the very long run. It can flip, right? So what in my view, what we need to really understand, and whether it is crypto or digital currency, I have a view that it will be digital currency now, and that is because people still not trusting the crypto logic. And when the system is sophisticated, people understand the tokenization, people understand the blockchain logic, it may flip after a period of time, right? And it will be self-regulated. Like, let me tell you what I mean by self-regulation. Today, if Amazon is willing to validate a cryptocurrency, you don't need the government to stand behind it. Let us say the US dollar is being used by Amazon and Facebook and Google and all of them. Technically, they can all come together and they are bigger than the US government. Technically, they can form a cartel and say that, guys, we don't want the US dollar to be dominating the world. Amazon, Google, Facebook, and all WhatsApp, all of us come together and we are going to validate our own currency. And we are going to do transactions in our own currency. The US government cannot do anything. Today, they are able to do it because they are very powerful. They control a significant portion of the economy, right? So the point is not whether it is regulated or not. The point is whether the concentration of power goes into the wrong hand, and that is what we need to be careful about. Why is Facebook becoming very powerful? Because they suddenly control 50% of the global population, right? So you see, so it's not the issue of regulation coming in and controlling things and all of that. It will be left to the world to determine on its own. Regulation will be very temporary, for example, and then we have to guard as a citizens that it doesn't get concentrated in very powerful people that manipulates the whole world, which is already happening today.
So that's the idea of decentralization, correct?
That is exactly the idea of decentralization. That is exactly the idea of tokenization. That is exactly the idea of Bitcoin. It is completely decentralized.
Cryptocurrencies.
Correct.
Exactly.
Yes.
Thank you.
Correct.
Thank you, sir. Let me now invite our patron, Unnikrishnan sir, for his question. He's been waiting for a long time.
Oh, I said I am okay if my chance is given anywhere when it is totally free. Okay, hope I can talk. Right, I think the question, I raised my hand right from the beginning. That time I have a question. I think most of my question about has been answered, though I will ask it. You know, what will the common man do? I mean, that question answered. He will be sitting at home and he will be given, he will be compensated. That's what I understood. Right, I can say the good amount of work is actually repetitive, and the repetitive work will be taken away by automated versions of new ages. Correct. So that means we are creating a useless class altogether. Just like the industrial revolution created the working class, this digital revolution will make useless class. The people will ask what you have worked for, what you can do. The answer is I know nothing. I have no role here to play. You know what these people will do. And is that are we not simplifying or belittling the actual situation, saying that they will be compensated in a way that actually not working of them is profitable for the government, compensating with whatever they earn by working. Are we not belittling that one? And the final question is, what is the role of the government? How will the governance look like in the new world? The democracy of what we used to know now, I think there will be disruption in that as well. There are some lines by Yuval Harari also on this line. I would like to hear that from you, Kuruvilla.
Okay, good. So, see the point that you raised about with digitalization and sophistication. In my view, it's only a short-term philosophy by which people will go out of job and they will be paid by the government. It is already happening in many developed countries where people who doesn't have a job gets a stipend. It is already happening right now. The point I'm trying to see again, I have to go back to this instead of introducing new examples so that I can explain it very quickly. Are we saying that it is better to have 200 drivers driving 100 taxis, consuming thousands and thousands of parking spots, right? Versus taking that money which is being saved and give it to them, or you can even train them, right, to do something else. Or they can sit at home and get entertained. It is still better for the economy, right? So I think what we are thinking is that a person sitting at home is very unhappy if he's getting paid. I'm not very 100% sure of that, number one. Number two, for people who are sitting at home, there are going to be, it is happening in all the developed economies. There are, multiple initiatives to retrain them to do what is relevant for the new economy, right? See, I will not even argue that what is happening is very different than what happened in the past. It is just that the pace is very fast. I'm from a village in Edathua, where we used to do, a farmer used to cultivate 1 acre, right? And today a farmer can cultivate 100 acres because it is mechanized. And the remaining 90 farmers who are doing paddy cultivation in Edathua are now working in Dubai and making more money, right? So why are we unhappy that these people who are cultivating paddy and getting 100 rupees, now they are not cultivating paddy and they're going to Dubai and they're getting 200 rupees, right? That is really what is happening, right? And we may be unhappy that we don't get enough paddy and the workers are not there. That is because we are corrupt in our mind, seriously. We are seriously corrupt in our mind. We wanted a paddy people to be cutting paddy and making coconut from the, and you want to sit in a 5-star hotel and enjoy life. It's a very unfair thinking, really, I'm telling you, right? So I have gone into all this very detailed analysis, but trying to create a job for a reason of maintaining a job, sorry to say, it's complete stupidity. It's economically stupid. It is from a political angle. You want to prove that, I'm the people person, I'm a democracy, I want to get votes and I have to give you a job. That's how it is, right? Wherever it has been mechanized, they have a higher income. It's a fact. It's a fact. Wherever there is automation, the absolute per capita GDP in that country is better. The lifestyle is better. Correct? It's a simple philosophy today. So we cannot start saying that, my dear US idiots, you mechanized so much and India is doing much better. You should not have mechanized because people have a job in the farms and that is better. It is equivalent to that argument in my personal opinion. It is almost equivalent to that argument in my view, saying that, no, we did a wonderful job in Kerala by not mechanizing and our farmers are producing rice. But unfortunately, now Tamil Nadu produces rice much cheaper because they are mechanized and we still sound like idiots now because now they don't have a mechanized system and they don't have a job also. Right? So instead of resisting it, it is better to go in that direction. And I completely agree that in the short term, it will create serious problems. I agree with you. That I agree. And it is the government's responsibility to handle it. It is the government's responsibility to handle it. Yeah. Now, there was a very interesting question on regulation. There are very serious discussions at the highest level on consolidating geographies. These are very politically sensitive discussions ongoing. For example, in GCC, there is a discussion between all the GCC countries. Can we come up to a one government and can we regulate us together? Because our competitors are much bigger than us. Or the European Union came together so that they can compete against a US or a China or a Russia, right? So when you talk about the government's role, unfortunately, they will be fighting for power And there is definitely a philosophy of consolidation of power that is going to happen. It is definitely going to happen. Otherwise, you will be left out. And that is why you have this European Union, you have GCC, and all these cartels that are getting formed. In the past, you may have 10 groups of political countries, and now you will move towards 2 to 3 groups of political countries, and that is going to be the role of the government. The role of the government, instead of managing the economy, which will be left to the free market, will be more to understand the politics and dynamics in the political world. That is where the government role is going to move, not now in the, let us say, 10 to 12 years time, because everything else will be managed by the free market, in my view. Yeah.
Right.
We have one last question that has come up from Sabit. Sabit, go ahead. You're on mute, Sabit.
Oh, yeah. Thank you so much. Maybe it's my current day thinking that has brought this question up. And being trained since, the concept of a completely efficient engine is still not set into our mind. What is the way we see? You said about 4 cars replacing the 2 cars which are there, the distance between the cars coming down and all that. How are we going to tackle machine failure and artificial intelligence failure as such?
See, it is statistically proven that the failure is significantly lower when machine is controlling it versus human being. Whoever is arguing this, I'm sorry, I'm going to be very blunt. They're trying to move against automation to maintain human jobs. Do you know that the sector that is going to be the most impacted by automated taxis? Make a guess. Make a
sector
guess.
Which is most impacted?
The sector in this world that will be the most unhappiest and completely pissed off sector when we automate cars.
And
the maintenance sector, the workshops and
Automobile sector itself,
automobile. Yeah.
because efficiency will increase.
I think it is an infrastructure sector.
Hospital emergency.
No. There will be, once everything is automated,
Drivers.
the accidents will come down. There is no insurance cost.
Insurance.
The insurance companies are politicking to prove that accidents will happen. So I will share a video with you. It is a part of the real project that we did in Dubai. We took an area in the desert. We brought in around 5 to 6 different autonomous vehicles with passengers, and we built buildings. I can show a video if somebody has some time. And we allowed these machines to go from everywhere. It's 100% autonomous. No?
Yes, we have time. Yeah.
There is absolutely no accident. No accident.
Yeah, actually, yeah, that's true. I mean, I have read somewhere a human driving a car in future is not a worth taking risk.
Yeah. So it is not correct that accidents go up. It is completely not correct. It's completely not correct. See, but when the accident happens, it will be huge disaster.
Yeah,
so what you need to understand is, it is just like instead of the pilots, we gave autopilot, correct? So the overall accidents of planes, the overall number of passengers that got killed because of planes has come down. But when a plane crashes, the pilot cannot do anything. It is autonomous. The bloody thing goes into the sea and the pilot is just cannot do anything. And the accident will be very severe. So similarly, when all the taxis are being autonomously managed in Dubai, and for some reason something goes wrong and all the cars hit each other, maybe 500 people will die, maybe. But the total death will be not even 1/100th of what would have happened over the last 5 years, for example. You see, so we should distinguish between the total fatality rate or the impact of a failure. The impact of a failure will be much, much, much higher. I have no doubt about it. Because if the autonomous system fails, all the cars will go and hit, but thousands and cars will go and hit because the machine malfunctioned. But it's not going to happen like that. Look at the aeroplane business. How many aeroplane accidents are happening? Nothing, almost nil. Even today, the number of aeroplane accidents are almost nil. Even from the accidents, 80 to 90% is terrorist activity, my friend. It is not because of machine malfunctioning. It's not, right? So it's not correct to, in my view, to feel that a machine will increase fatality rate. It's just not correct in my view. Just not correct.
Mr. Thomas, how many more minutes do you have?
I will definitely continue some till there is interest. Don't worry. Yeah.
Okay, we have a raised hand. Riyadh, 1998 civil. Riyadh, go ahead.
Am I audible?
Yes,
Yeah.
you're
Yes.
audible.
Just a concern I want to raise. When we hear about cryptos, we are always confused regarding the value of cryptos and how it is going to be introduced into an economy like the UAE. You have discussed like when cryptos are going to be introduced, it is going to be regulated by the government and each country may have its own crypto, things like that.
Correct.
How a regulated crypto will be introduced into the economy, like the government will declare that it has a fixed value against the paper currency and people can replace the paper currency with the cryptos. Is it going to be like that? Because I'm really seeing last week also the crypto values fumbled down and a lot of people lost their whole of investments. So how it is going to be introduced into the UAE market, cryptos, regulated cryptos replacing the currencies. So our currencies will be replaced by cryptos by the government itself, or how it is going to be introduced?
Correct. See, the government, okay, the government will not insist on what digital currency that you will be expected to use, right? I will just go back to the example of Singapore. When Singapore in 2002, 2003 said the government is not going to accept cash, we are going to accept only credit cards. It is any credit card, but the credit card company has to get an approval to release the credit card, right? So similarly, any cryptocurrency or Bitcoin, or for that matter, anything that is coming into the market will have to go through a regulatory approval process, that they have a good process behind it. It is not manipulated. It is not meant for cheating. It is meant for, it is market forces are driving the value of that. If the government intervenes in fixing the value, it is against the fundamental philosophy of market forces, right? You may do that for stability, because that is what is done for the dirham for now. It is introduced for stability. But see, let me give you another very, very important example. Any regulated paper currency today will never become a major currency in the world. It's not possible. If dirham is regulated and they want to use dirham to do oil buying and selling, it will never happen, because you also always need to have the market value playing in it for you to be eligible for these transactions. So it is against the philosophy of digital currency, against the philosophy of free market trading. It is against the philosophy of allowing the market to determine the value. That is the philosophy of digital economy. And in that you come and fix the rate, you are contradicting it, right? But you may still contradict it to stabilize, because in a stock market also, when the stock price fluctuates by 10%, they stop the stock market, right? They say you cannot trade it today, but they stop the trading only for a day, not even the second day. The second day again, you can fluctuate by 10%, right? So such regulations will come in if it fluctuates too much, and they will say that the fluctuation is allowed only for X amount of time for the next 1 day, 2 days, or 2 hours, 10 hours. Because you don't want to see some very mad movement. So I don't believe that when they introduce this legally, they will fix the value. At least I don't think that's the right way to do it, because it is against the fundamental philosophy of digital currency. It is against the philosophy of digital currency.
Thank you, Mr.
And
Thomas.
and the fluctuations is not unusual, right? See, there is nothing in this world that got introduced did not have fluctuation. Go and look at the stock price of Amazon or Google or iPhone or anything. It fluctuates. That's it. That's the risk people are taking. Yeah.
Riston, go ahead, Riston.
Yeah, Mr. Thomas, I really appreciate you taking the time to stay back. I know you also have a very busy schedule. I just wanted to ask two questions. One is there any books or resources that you would like to recommend to the forum that so we can learn a bit more about this books or studies that was done? And my second question is, what are your thoughts on the development of the cybersecurity as we go towards digitalization? Do you feel that the pace at which we are developing the cybersecurity is in line with the development, or do you think it's lagging behind? So if you could answer these two questions, I believe it would be really helpful. Yeah, thank you.
On the, there are no books yet because Metaverse and all is a bit new, but there are very, very good reports. So I will send it to whoever Unni, I can send it to Unni. There are some very good reports by Citibank and Denata. There's a good report by the Dubai government on digital currency. So there are 3 to 4. It's not books. It's like, organizations released it. I will send it to maybe to Unni or whoever, and you can search. All of you can get it. It's actually freely available, but I have already searched it, so you don't have to search for it. Yeah. Now, on cyber security. People are unhappy about the cyber security today, but the cyber security that we have today versus even 2 years back or 5 years back is unbelievably better than what was happening in the past. We tend to have, we are always unhappy with things. And we have the right to be unhappy with things. But the development of cyber security and the number of fake transactions that are happening on ATM or digital currency and all of that versus 10 years back is 100th the size, 100. It has reduced by 99%, by the way, right? So the cyber security and the security that is given to all digital transactions has significantly improved in the last many, many years. And with tokenization of the digital currency, you cannot fraud anymore because it's a blockchain. You can track it to anybody. So once any transaction is in the blockchain, theoretically, you cannot have any fraud. Theoretically, zero fraud, as long as it is in the blockchain, because the transaction is codified, right? But is there scope to improve? For sure, there is scope to improve. But why it will never catch up? Because it is very difficult for the regulatory entity to predict what others are doing. So the security, unfortunately, will only follow the market development. See, you could not have the security for cryptocurrency or Bitcoin before Bitcoin came. You see, because if somebody was very smart, think about it in a market logic. If I was very smart that I know Bitcoin is going to come, and I will say, oh, Bitcoin is going to come and it's going to make a lot of money, and now let me do the security. No, I'm actually stupid. I will go and make the Bitcoin first. You see? So the market logic is in a way that anything that comes first, they will always try to make money out of it. So you will never in your life have a regulation ahead of the market. It's impossible. That is human psychology, right? If you know that Amazon is going to come up, you will not start regulating Amazon. You will just implement an Amazon, make a lot of money, and then you regulate it, right? So regulation will always lag, number one. But the security is significantly improving, at the pace at which it is improving is much better. And the last point I want to make on this is there is a significant push today that everyone will know what is being shared and what is not being shared. In the past, people used to cheat us. Amazon and Google and Facebook was actually literally cheating all of us. They did not tell us what they know. And they got penalized. 700 million, 800 million, $10 billion, they're getting penalized now. So going forward, the good thing is that they will force us to know what they're doing with our data, right? And then you can be careful saying that this data I should give, should I not give? And then you can look at the security system for that and all of that, right? So that is how the regulation is going. But to repeat one fundamental philosophy, regulation and security will never be ahead of the market. It's impossible. Philosophically, it's not possible. Yeah.
Okay, Ajit.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for the beautiful presentation. And am I audible?
Yes.
Okay, and sorry, I cannot keep my video on because I'm in the office. So And thanks for staying back for the extra time as well.
No problem.
Okay, so my question is, see, I see this as a natural progression from the Industrial Revolution, like standardization and mass scale production, which
That's
brings
correct.
down the cost and improves the efficiency.
Correct.
Now we are taking this to a bit too far, I believe, because you see, now you were talking in the context of applying this to Dubai.
Correct.
I was just thinking about applying it to the whole world. We have differences in geographies, differences in economies. To make that happen in a most efficient manner, it should be standardized and applied all over the world, because Dubai cannot stand apart and apply it in its own geography.
Correct.
How do you see that? How because unless it is applied in a larger scale, the kind of efficiencies we see cannot happen.
See, again, the answer, I'm sorry, the answer is going to be very simple, right? Let me tell you, see, what happens is whenever, see, the larger players will drive the standardization, right? I can just take a simple example of iPhone and Samsung, right? No. So Apple, because of their size, can afford to have their own standardization. And Samsung is using another standard. All the other new players who are coming into the market is following an existing standard, right? So standardization also is a self-regulated philosophy in business community. So Dubai is trying to be the leader, by the way. Dubai is the first country in the world that has a metaverse regulator. Dubai is the first country in the whole world that has announced a digital twin. Right now, when somebody else is coming up, Dubai will try to tell them, can you please follow my standards? They will try. And if somebody says no, they will not. US may follow their own standards. And if the standards are very different, each and every country is going to be disadvantaged. And then there will be a market force driven consolidation on standardization. Then Dubai will decide, okay, I can keep my own standard, but US and Europe together have a common standard. And I'm going to lose out in the whole game. Whenever people are coming from US and Europe to Dubai as a tourist, they're very pissed off with my standard and people are stopped coming to my country, right? So Dubai will adapt, right? So I'm not giving any sophisticated answer because I don't believe in any sophisticated philosophy here. The market forces will drive standardization and standardization will happen. It happened in credit cards, it happened in mobile, it happened in internet protocol got standard. Mobile connectivity got standardized. Charger got electric car connectivity got standardized, right? Similarly, the currency regulation will get standardized. It will 100% get standardized, 100%. There's no way out of it. Yeah. But where it will get standardized is it's a game that people will play, right? Tesla will say that the electric connection should be Tesla car, and BMW will say it should be my car, and Mercedes will say it should be my car. That will go on. And then somebody will have to standardize, right? Yeah.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, I think it's almost 2 hours now. I have one question, probably.
Sure.
If you don't see any raise of hands, then we can conclude after this.
Sure.
The question is more related to the leadership thought process. We are talking about the future. We are strategizing for the future. But 2 words that you used today in the presentation is the situation being volatile and disruptive. So my question is, the people who are thinking about 50 years from now, how do they adjust their strategies in this volatile and disruptive environment?
So I will tell you, and I know when I say this, many of you will feel maybe even a bit agitated, right? A pure democratic process, in my view, is not suitable to handle the situation. Dubai is actually run like a company. Okay? Now, a non-corrupt, good, genuine dictator is better than a democracy in my view. And I know maybe half or more than half of you may disagree with it, right? Dubai is run like a company, right? The good thing about the good and the bad thing is that in Dubai, you may feel very pissed off that, we have laborers working at 53 degrees centigrade in the sun and they are not treated properly, right? And you may feel very pissed off with it, but they still feel better to be in Dubai under 53 degrees centigrade than working in Kerala. So I don't know what we are trying to argue, right? I don't know, right? People will say that we are very fair in Kerala and it's a democratic process, and in Dubai it's a dictator putting all of them in the sun, but they still want to be in Dubai and not in Kerala. So it's not an easy argument, right? Now, what very good government does that, what I have seen in Dubai is that they are genuinely looking to learn from others. So even though the Dubai leadership has the capacity to take any decision, if you think they have power, the power is 10 times than what you think, by the way, 10 times. They can do anything they want in Dubai, right? Nobody can question them. But the very good thing about them is they are never arrogant that they know everything. They always make an assumption that we don't know many things. We need to learn from people. And they are very, very open to keep listening to people. And why I think so far, I'm not saying it is going to be successful all the time. So far, if you look at what Dubai has been doing, they have been making continuous adaptations based on genuine inputs given to them by people that they think are very knowledgeable on these topics, right? And who am I? I'm just a consultant from India, right? When I have a discussion with the ruler or RTA chairman or DIWA chairman or MR chairman, they are only listening to the logic. They're only listening to the rationale. There's no ego in the discussion. They don't look at what is my level. They just listen to the logic that we are talking about, right? And for me, that is because things are so unpredictable, it's evolving, and it is very difficult to predict. The best leadership are leadership that remains. You cannot change very frequently. You cannot change the leadership every 5 years. It's a disaster, right? The leadership has to continue, and they have to be very, very open to listening to people genuinely. And when there are new ideas coming up, you have to implement them. And then the likelihood of sustainability is much higher if you follow that logic, in my personal opinion.
Okay, so it's about continuity and about the maturity of the leadership think tank.
Continuity, maturity, and openness to listen. Yeah.
Okay.
You need to be very open to people, to listen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sabit, I know that you raised your hand, but we have our president, Nujum Nawaz, raising his hand as well. So I'll give him the opportunity to ask because he has been silent for the last 2 hours. Okay, Nawaz, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas, for the wonderful presentation and for your time that you have dedicated for our people. One question, the question is not for me, it's actually for all the listeners who are still staying back and want to take back something home. What would be a future business in this direction, if you could advise some of the people who could take this forward?
Okay, so let me give you one input that, okay, if you look at the top 50 companies in the world, what percentage of them do you think are new companies versus old companies? Make a guess.
90% new companies.
Correct. 85 to 9. It's the precise number is 87% when I did the analysis around 1 month back. 87% of the companies in the top 500 are new companies. Why is that new companies are able to disrupt companies who have been established, who have much more financial capability, much more management capability, much more experience? Because our experience 100% corrupts our mind. 100% corrupts our mind. So just as a very simple advice for business, I do that with all my clients. I tell my client that I will not tell them to do it every year, maybe for some business every 2 years, every 3 years, or every 1 year. You have to make an assumption that your company doesn't exist. and you're going to build a completely new company. And how will that company look like? And if that company looks very different than what you have today, you have a very, very, very serious problem, right? And that is my single advice to whoever is in business positions and doing things. We always got corrupted by our own thinking, our own logic, and the past is guiding the future, which is complete stupidity. It is stupidity, right? And it is proven by the fact that 87% of the companies are new companies, which means they had a fresh thinking. They did not follow the existing company. So I do that in Arthur D. Little, by the way. Every 1 year, I collect a group of people in the office saying that, guys, forget that we are going to restart the whole Middle East operations today morning. We have nothing. We have nothing. We just landed on a plane and we came and we are sitting in a meeting room in Dubai and we are going to restart Arthur D. Little. How will we restart Arthur D. Little? No constraints in our mind. And then we will look at that Arthur D. Little versus what I have today. They say, man, this looks very different. Then you have to think, why is it different? And then you have to adapt. Otherwise, you will definitely be killed. 100% you will be killed. I can guarantee that. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Thomas. We have our past president, Mumtaz, raising her hand. Mumtaz.
Hello. Thank you, Thomas sir, for an interesting session today. It was very interesting to know that like digitalization, and even in your explanation, you already explained that increase in GDP, it will promote like it will aim, vision is to increase the GDP, everything. And related with the private car kingdom, which you explained. Okay, as part of the digitalization and like mass transit transformation, which Dubai, say we talk about Dubai. Dubai is aiming for the mass transit, promoting mass transit and all.
Correct.
It's a very interesting topic. Okay, it will reduce the traffic congestion and it will improve the capacity of the roads and all. It's very interesting to know. Then my question is, what okay, while the mass transit and all, it is operating by the government, and what would be the impact on people in terms of tax? Basically, again, to give a highlight into that, if government is giving, who is paying that expenses for the public transport, or as a return of investment, government will increase the tax to the people to get their investment back?
Government will definitely put in tax in Dubai. I have no doubt about it.
And what do you think, like, increase in tax, it will happen?
I think it will gradually move towards, first you will have I think the income tax will come in much later. I don't think they will have income tax yet, but I think the corporate tax will come in. It can go up to 10-15% in the next few years, because if you look at the financials, it doesn't tally together, right? But there are two ways to look at it, right? See, the tax is the highest in Sweden, right? But many, so we always have a feeling, I know it's a very different topic, but let me just give you one quick input on tax, because we did a lot of tax studies for Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia introduced tax. If the tax is used properly, it is better for people to pay tax and get the services from the government. Let me explain to you why it is the case. It's a very tricky topic. Yeah, see. Any service that is consolidated will always be more efficient than which is decentralized. Any service, consolidation. But consolidation leads to inefficiencies and corruption. You see, that is the fine balance. So if Dubai government is collecting tax from people and the tax is 100% used to build public transport, the overall cost for us is actually going to come down, because if you pay $10 tax to the government, they will give you services which would have costed you more than 10% if you did it on your own, because you don't have the economies of scale. The problem is, majority of the places, the tax goes into corruption. Let me put it very bluntly, right? So the philosophy is that we should never be unhappy. As a philosophy, I can prove it with data. I'm not just making, I have collected this data. I can prove it to you that the concept of collecting tax from people to give consolidated services is actually good for people, because the government can provide the same services cheaper when you consolidate all the healthcare needs, for example, or if you consolidate all the transportation needs, as long as they use it with in the right way instead of taking it home like it happens in many other countries. Right? So you should not be technically unhappy about tax if you believe that it will be used properly, because the citizens benefit more by tax. The benefit is normally more for the poorer people, right? Which I think is also fair, because the tax is linked to your income and the public infrastructure is for everybody, right? So the rich people will, so it is going to be more negatively impacted to the rich people. But I find it very appropriate, right? Because rich people became rich at the cost of the poor people. So give it back also sometimes, right? If you don't want to give it, let the tax people take your money and give it to them in some healthcare hospital or public transportation or whatever. So it is still fair in my view. So my answer is your question gave an impression that you feel taxing is required to do all of this and it is negative. I don't think it is negative. It is actually the right way of doing it. Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, okay, I understand you are trying to say like it's a distribution of like overall economy between rich and poor. Maybe like
No. That is not the main point. The distribution is the second point. The first point is efficiency.
Okay.
See, let me explain to you again. See, the government did not take tax to put public transport, let us say, correct? Then if the government did not take tax and put public transport, we are going to use our own vehicles to do the transport, correct?
Yeah.
That cost will be significantly higher than what the government would have taken as tax and put as a public transport. So we actually gain from taxing us. So it is not distribution. It is the efficiency that gets created by consolidation of services by tax collection.
Yeah, got it. Yeah.
You see? Yeah. The distribution also happens. It's a very good point, but that's not in a very healthy, non-corrupt country, it is not the wealth distribution that is achieved. It is actually the efficiency of managing the infrastructure. That is what is managed by tax collection. Yeah.
Thomas sir, I think you are taking a big risk by allowing us to continue the question and answer session. We have more than half of the audience is still here, and we have more questions coming up.
I have no problem. Let me put it the other way around. I feel so privileged, and I'm saying, like, why are people still asking me and listening to me? And if there are 40 people willing to listen to me, I think it is impolite for me to say I cannot talk, I cannot answer. I should not be saying that. No, it's so impolite. Yeah.
So that's why I am asking you about the time until which you can remain.
No, you can continue, right?
Okay. So
I have already online checked my flight.
Oh, okay, no problem. That's okay.
And my wife just messaged me. She has packed my bag.
Okay, no problem. Okay, so has she put it in the metaverse also or no? Okay.
I need to ask her, by the way. I don't know.
Ajit, your chance to ask the question, please. Ajit Yohanan.
Mr. Thomas, straight to the question.
Sure.
It's a very recent happening that I'm involved with the Abu Dhabi government. I know you are mostly into the Dubai government. So
Correct.
On behalf of the Abu Dhabi government, I have been advised to develop a regulatory framework well into the quality of EV, renewables, and high voltage systems compared to the international standards. And then I have been also advised to develop one of the finest labs certifying the quality and the performance of these fields, especially into the electric vehicle. So
Correct.
I would like to request you for your support and guidance in developing this lab and also the regulatory framework.
Yes, we can. I guess we can definitely take it offline. We have done that in many European countries, by the way, and we are actually helping the Saudi government. I don't know whether you have heard the NEOM city.
Yes.
So Yeah, so we are actually doing the exactly this for not for Saudi Arabia, for Neom City. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Sabit, go ahead.
Just I will put my email address and mobile on the chat in case someone wants.
Oh yeah, thank you so much, Mr. Kuruvilla. That would definitely help. In fact, my question was to if we were to take this next session on the metaverse, like if we were to create a TKMverse, what is the next step that we have to do?
It's a very simple. You duplicate the whole TKM on the cloud, right? And no,
so is it no? But
really,
so is it like no? Because what I want to know is it something like, say, for example, when Web 1, people connected to the web. In Web 2, social media help people post things on the web. Now in Web 3, it is all decentralized. So how do I create a TKMverse? Is there a www.tkmverse.com or how do we do this?
It's not a WW philosophy. It is, see, actually, by the way, I'm teaching in IIM Bangalore, right? During iteration, right? So we are already creating virtual metaverse classrooms, right? And let me tell you the advantage of all of this, by the way, right? Because the metaverse that we are creating for IIM Bangalore, it is very, very, very close to a physical classroom philosophy, right? And in the MBA courses, there are a lot of group assignments people are supposed to do, right? They all have to come to the campus in the night and all of that, right? They do it in their own houses and they connect on the metaverse and they have a feeling as if they are sitting in a physical room. We do have professors coming from the US who used to fly down to conduct 1 or 2 classes. Now they're doing it over the metaverse, right? So the metaverse logic is that you have a physical, you start by duplicating or creating a virtual replica of the physical infrastructure. That is the starting point normally. And then in the physical infrastructure, many things may not be good. And then you start improving it. That is how people are doing it. That is one way of doing it. Or if you want to take the very bold step, you will go through the logic that I mentioned earlier. You will assume that TKM is non-existent today. There is no TKM today. And I only have the facility to create a virtual TKM. There is no physical TKM. That is the best way of creating a metaverse, because then you're thinking very fresh. The current constraints are not applicable. You see? So theoretically, the right way to do it is to say, let me assume there's no TKM College of Engineering. And let me assume that I'm going to build a new school from scratch and it's 100% on the cloud. How will you do it? Trust me, it will be very, very, very different than what we have today. It will be very different. It will be very different. And then you can integrate the metaverse school and the physical school. It can be integrated. So sometimes you're sitting in the metaverse, sometimes you're sitting in the physical world, and you can get the benefits of both. There are many, what should I say, restaurants that have started doing that, right? You can actually get into the metaverse kitchen and you can add, can you imagine, you can actually order food. You can, through the metaverse, you can go and see the kitchen. And when the chef is adding salt, you can add a little more salt if you want. Yeah. And let me tell you another concept, because I have all of this because we are working on it. There are kitchens who prepares so when you talk about adding salt, there's no way to remove salt, right? Now what happens is, in the metaverse, they will cook. It's not the physical cooking. There are robots who will cook it. I don't know whether you've seen robots cooking fried rice and cutting it. They 100% can be made by a robot. So what they do is, they actually, in the metaverse, they make the fried rice. And it is recorded. And you can go and watch how the robot has prepared the fried rice. How the metaverse has prepared the fried rice. And then you can say, I don't like the amount of tomato ketchup you have put. I don't like the amount of soya sauce you have put. Let me reduce in the pre-cooked metaverse fried rice. And then you say, now you cook this. And from the metaverse, it flows to a robotic kitchen and it cooks the fried rice that you cooked in the metaverse. And it delivers to you. So you're actually mixing a digital kitchen and a physical kitchen, and you're getting the best of both. So Am I confusing you, or it is clear?
It's clear.
No, it's clear. It's clear. It's very clear. In fact, one of my friends did an NFT, an event. That was my first interaction in the metaverse. So he had a music video launch. This was the first NFT music video. The event happened on the metaverse in Canada, but we were from all over the place, and it was very interesting. It was almost like a live feel there.
Correct.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mr. Kuruvilla. My questions answered. So probably build one.
Yeah. Build one, and it is the benefits are unbelievably good, and the cost of building a metaverse or a digital twin is quite high now. But the way the solar cell price came down or mobile phone price came down, the cost to build digital twins will come down very, very quickly. So there is a very tricky point. Are you going to build it now, or you want to wait for 1 year? I don't have a view, because maybe you can build the TKM digital twin at half the price if you wait for one year. So the timing is always
I was about to ask, what is the sweet spot with respect to timing?
If you don't have very significant commercial value, you should delay it because it's very costly now. So if there is significant commercial value for retail shops, the commercial value is very high. So they should not wait. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay. Once again, Mr. Thomas, thank you very much. It's been a real eye-opener for many, including me, who has been proudly going around saying that I have been in the digital world in the aviation industry and things like that. But you have opened my eyes to a lot of things which I had never imagined in the past. and I am personally I'm a student of leadership, strategies and things like that. So I think you should do a session. I put a WhatsApp message to you as well that you should do a session on the mindset for the future. Forget about the digital and all those things. What is the mindset that we should have in terms of taking ourselves and our organizations into the future? That'll be something interesting to listen from you, especially given the amount of work that you have done in that space. Thank you very much once again from my side. Nawaz, over to you for conclusion.
I think, Mr. Thomas, you have spent enough time with us, but we would look forward to seeing you or having a physical meeting and look at the opportunities of having this TKM metaverse. Or we need to think on how we standing together, what we can do in future as well for our own existence. Regularly നമ്മൾ കൊണ്ടുവരുന്നുണ്ടാവും ഇൻഷാല്ലാ. അത് മാത്രമല്ല, standing together what we can do for our own community as well as for our next generation. Maybe that's things that we need to think on as well. Sir.
Yeah. Okay. വേറൊരു കാര്യം കൂടെ ചോദിച്ചോ. നമ്മളിപ്പോ ഫോർമൽ മീറ്റിംഗ് കഴിഞ്ഞല്ലോ. ഈ
റെക്കോർഡിംഗ് ഒരു മിനിറ്റ് സർ. സഫീർ, റെക്കോർഡിംഗ് സ്റ്റോപ്പ് ചെയ്യൂ.
Yes.
Yeah.